With the holiday season fast approaching, businesses are preparing for their busiest time of the year. To thrive during the holiday rush, companies need to be ready, not only for high volumes of traffic, but also for an increase in security threats.
Hello everyone, my name is Cornelius.
And I'm Daniel Barty.
And we're here to share excitement and our experience with you so that you can make the most of the festive season. We've seen a rise in how shoppers are trooping to platforms to cash in on the huge promotions going on now, from Cyber Monday to
Black Friday. I think it's very important to point out that the most downloaded app right now in Nigeria is actually an e-commerce app. To just tell you how serious people are about their Christmas purchases and the Black Friday deals that went on and Cyber Monday. People just really want to get something either for their loved ones or their friends or even for themselves, right?
Before we get started, everybody has a mobile device. Almost everybody. I don't want to generalize. We have at least 50 million internet-enabled devices in Nigeria today, and even more across the continent. So it's a good starting point, at least for you as a developer, to think about how your users are connecting to your platforms, right? Using their mobile devices, right? So Daniel, just thinking through mobile experience, what would you say is the most important thing to keep the lights on for businesses who are selling either on e-commerce or they are a retail outlet and they have some sort of online expression?
Yeah, thanks, Cornelius. I think there is no one most important thing, but there are a list of things that you'd have to make sure that you keep doing every now and then to make sure that you keep the lights on. But to start with is there are two different things we're talking about when we say mobile experience. We have the mobile application and we have the mobile web. Now, the mobile web is simply just the web scaled down to fit into a mobile device, whereas the mobile application is something that's built to actually run on the device natively. And these two implementations or these two applications of the same thing tend to have their pros and cons. But to point out the discrepancies, we all know that a mobile web application basically runs on the web. So it requires internet, good internet connection. Well, bad internet connection sometimes can work, but it requires internet connection nonetheless, whereas a native mobile application does not require internet connection. And you're collecting traffic whenever people are browsing to your mobile web application, as opposed to your mobile app, the native application that you have. That's not really generating any traffic because I have an instance of that app, a copy of it on my device. So that kind of serves as some sort of an advantage that the mobile app has over the mobile web. But then again, accessibility on the web, accessibility is just a superpower that the web has, making it, and it's very easy and faster to get things out there for people who are working on products, right? They want to build an application, they want to share something with the world. The web is the easiest way to get it out there to people. Right. So they have their pros and cons. And if you're talking about the web, one of the other things that you have to look out for is you would have, since you're dealing with traffic, you would also have attacks that come from that angle, something called DDoS, that if you've ever heard of, if you've built a web application before. So it's something that you would also not worry about if you're talking about a mobile app. Where they meet is that at the end of the day, your application is meant to serve customers in a specific way. It's meant to sell an offering to the customer. You want to give the person something that you think is very valuable to them. And in the case of e-commerce, it's the opportunity to buy something really nice for your mom on Christmas. I'm planning to do that anyway. But again, so if you want to do that, some of the things that you'd want to make sure that you keep in check is, the performance of your application. You want to make sure that when people get to your application, it really loads really fast. They're able to quickly start using it. They're able to quickly start interacting with these features that they actually care about. So performance is something to really take in mind. And some of the ways you can optimize performance is making sure that taking advantage of caching. So caching is one of those things that helps you to kind of store things locally while you're still maybe making a request in the background to load the information, but then giving users the opportunity to interact with content while that is happening.
So thanks, Daniel. I just want us to take some steps back, right? To give people an example so they can understand what we're trying to describe. Let's imagine I'm a developer who built an e-commerce platform that sells maybe shoes, maybe flowers, or I don't know what's popular these days, right?
Chocolates. If you just broke up, you
Sure.
get paid.
And then on a good day, I get like 20 orders. But recently on that my small website that I created, I noticed that I'm getting between 1,000 to 3,000 orders every day. And with promos that I'm running and ads that I'm running, I'm getting more reach. I'm starting to get into tens of thousands of orders. What can I do to make sure that users who would use their mobile devices to make an order either using the mobile web or using my very minimal app get the best experience? I don't want the experience diluted so that I keep on cashing in on those orders.
All right. So if your name is John and you're a developer who is maintaining an application that helps people buy chocolates online, one of the things you could do is make sure that you do your checks and balances in all of those processes. Whenever customers start an order and they're going through the steps, try to make sure that whenever you're making any requests underneath the hood, you're handling them and communicating to the customer at every point in time what they need to do in order to continue. So you don't make the mistake of disabling that checkout button and preventing them from clicking away to buy those chocolates. Please, many hearts are breaking. You need to help a lot of people.
Amazing, amazing. And we spoke about caching. A lot of people believe caching is what you do for data, strictly data. But outside of data, from the front end side of things or the mobile side of things, what other things can the developer possibly cache?
Yeah, you could also cache, though everything falls under the umbrella of data. But when we say data, most of the time we're talking about information like name, address, email. But pictures are also fall under that category, and that's something you could also focus on caching, right? You could download those images and store them for a short period of time, and then whenever it's time for you to show that same product, you don't need to start loading the thing from the server, which in turn actually helps to reduce the traffic that is being sent remotely. So you could actually store some of those images, or even if they are like short form videos that show how the product works and what the experience of customers is like when they're using the product. You could store those things locally and quickly show them to customers whenever they click on those products, if they ever come back to the product again, or if it appears in the catalog of products.
Another thing that's important to note, right, and I think it's something that we do here at Flutterwave, is when you have traffic, you need to monitor the traffic, right, Daniel?
That's very correct. You can have all the nice tricks and you can apply all the techniques to optimize your application. But if you're not monitoring, you can't really know in real time exactly what's going on.
Yeah. And just for someone who, has never set up monitoring, maybe they've just built simple applications, what would be the best approach to setting up your monitoring, and what should you be looking at when you start to monitor traffic?
Some of the simple things you could do is make sure that users are able to access your application, your software. Make sure users are able to access it. Make sure users are able to go through the process. Those key things that actually identify, what the experience of your application is. Not the things on the side. Maybe they want to change their profile picture, and their profile picture doesn't really translate to the actual value that they get from using your application. You want to focus on those things, you want to monitor those things, and you want to collect data. So most of the time you'd want to, if you have a process that's meant to send something somewhere and then get a response back, you want to make sure that you monitor what you sent, and you want to also make sure that you monitor what you received. So you can make that correlation, and you can decide at that point in time when you get that response whether it's a success or a failure. And then when you are jumping in to attack the failure or the errors that are occurring, you can simply look at what was sent to understand if there was even an error, like something went wrong in the process before you even start looking at, okay, was I depending on some third-party provider that couldn't give me XYZ thing at that point in time? So those are the key things I've mentioned.
Right. And just to add to what Daniel shared, when you're thinking about monitoring, it's important that you are aware of key events that translate into revenues for you. For example, checkouts, clicking the checkout button, how quickly are users able to complete that action? What's the success rate of that action? You could also look at things that lead up to critical action like payments. For example, what are users looking at on my platform? Is there a way I can optimize that? Monitoring would help you figure out the necessary actions to take on your platform. Thanks, Daniel. So as we wrap up, I would like us to share from your experience, working on projects that basically handle a large amount of traffic. What are the things that could trip up developers, especially as the application scales and gets more traffic from users?
Yeah, I mean, one of the main things I think I could point out is when you're building an application, there's always this need to quickly communicate to the customer when something changes. And there are different techniques to handling this. One very popular one is long polling, where long polling basically is you making a call to a service over and over and over again, waiting for a final response, right? Which could be a success or a failure.
Gotcha.
And yeah, there are ways you could optimize this to function correctly, but a lot of the time, more often than not, you find that people actually do not do all these optimizations, and they just keep making the requests and hoping that something great is that they won't experience those problems. But then the challenge is you do not own your customer's device. You don't own their battery, you don't own their memory. So when you keep piling up all of these processes on their devices, you're basically going to lead to a point where the app starts to behave slowly because you're bombarding it with a whole lot of data, right? A whole lot of information to handle all at once with all of these API calls that you're making. So it's best, I would advise that you completely deviate away from long polling because it always comes back to bite you and it's never really fun. You could utilize tools like WebSockets, which is an actual technology that was built for messaging between applications. Utilize WebSockets. And another trick I use for most of the application I build is I just capture events. There are some certain activities that customers would do when they're trying to get certain information. And those activities can trigger those requests that you can make to get the information that you're looking for. So deviating away from long polling is something that over the years I think at this point, I don't even employ long polling for anything.
We hope with these tips, you'll be able to not only provide a delightful experience for your users, but also manage the high volume of traffic that we sure hope is coming your way this holiday season. Catch you next time.
Peace. Bye.